All right, everybody. Here we are. As you can see, this is a special guest we were talking about. Santangelo is with us as usual. This was supposed to go down last week. Obviously, things didn't work out, and then 6:30 in this morning. I'm notorious for sleeping in. Everybody knows this. I get like Torgrud, Ali, like anybody you can name. Milan Twitter makes fun of me for sleeping in. The one morning I have to wake up to go to the bathroom is when I go and check my phone to see Noah Okafor news bomb drop. But first, we have to introduce Bdair, who is I get called emotional sometimes, but bro, you make me look good all the time when it comes to that. I'm happy to finally have you on. We've obviously followed each other, been friends for like quite some time now. But pleasure to have you on. We all want the Bdair initial reaction to this because, like, what the fuck? Like, right? Like, what was your reaction when you woke up? And when did you wake up, actually? Because
I woke up like 10 minutes after the February 2 tweet. I wake up early usually, but not that early. It was just randomly that my body naturally woke up. Looked at my phone, and it was like, he was like already, it was like super advanced, which was insane because literally yesterday I was losing my mind and that we were going to,
that's right. Yeah.
That Moreto was saying that Giroud was the starting striker. We're looking at this guy from Azad Alkmaar, who isn't even the top scoring Greek guy in the Eredivisie. And I was like,
that's right.
That was going to destroy my week. And then I wake up and we get this, and I'm like, the thing with him is like, okay, he's not perfect. He's not particularly like, he hasn't been particularly prolific in his career, and he's injury prone. That's all true. But I will always want Milan to be in the talent business. He's talented. Just bring him in. For 13 million, it's like such a no-brainer. To just bring talent in and see what happens. The players he'll play with, he's never played with anybody this good, you know? The space he'll be afforded, he's never been afforded before in his career. And we saw him head-to-head. I mean, he destroyed Kalulu. That was something. But even in the second game, I remember, he almost scored from a Kiaya mistake. Like, he was active in both the games.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's 23. He's a good age profile. Again, 13 million is like, it's
in this market.
By far the best value we can get, especially this stage in the market where a lot of the initial targets have gone. Yeah, I am really, really happy with this.
Santangelo, you could go with yours real quick.
Yeah,
I know you're always up, so that is
I woke up, got the alert. I have like Fab's like
notifications
on, and I have that in Milan eyes. So like,
I have like 5 journalists for this. I can't lie.
I only do it during transfer window because during the season I don't need like the live tweet updates during the matches and stuff. But when I saw the news, I looked at the figures, I looked at the numbers, I looked at everything, and I'm like, yeah, this is a slam dunk deal. Yeah. And I think all the reasons that they're just mentioned here, like, yes, there is the injury record. I think Matteo Bonetti tweeted it out too. There isn't maybe the body of work that shows him as being like a volume goal scorer, someone who's going to put like, hey, this guy's going to give us 15 to 20 goals. But I think what he does is he's a different profile than Olivier Giroud. He's someone that can shift wide. He can play as a center forward. He can drop into the midfield. He's technical enough. He's got a good dribbling ability. I think you're going to see now with Pioli the way he tries to implement, possibly some of Chukwueze, Pulisic, Leao. You have players that in a given match, you could do so many different things and you could offer so many different looks of the opposing side, and it makes Milan like finally unpredictable in the way they attack teams. I think we've had only Rafael Leao as the guy that's like, his unpredictability is what makes him so special, the way he dribbles, all these sorts of things. But it's like, now you have like Pulisic who can tuck in, play behind the striker. You have him, he could drift to the right. He can go a little left. We've seen Leao switch flanks to get a sort of a tactical advantage. So when you kind of throw all those things together tactically and as far as a fit goes, I think this is a great deal. But with Milan, we always have to speak on the financial package, what we're ultimately laying out on the table to get this deal done. And 13 to 14 million plus a really low wage of 2 million for a player of his caliber, that if he's healthy,
that was going to be my next point.
He blows the 2 million out of the water. So if this doesn't work out, I'm not going to be the one that says, why did we make this investment? I'm going to look at it and be like, I would have taken that investment 10 out of 10 times because of the quality, because of the upside, and the fact that he does come from a club that does have Champions League experience, and we want that.
Just want to say real quick. I know this is bringing up PTSD, but Bertolacci still cost more. I don't care how much time was left on the contract. That guy's fee was still higher than what we're paying for this. And then the 2 million is nothing compared to like all these other players. And to move on to another one, basically the other bombshell that came as well was that Chukwueze is still it's 99% done is what the quote was. And his fee was his wages were already agreed upon, and that's only 3 million net. So again, two players like that you bring in, easily the best right winger or right-sided attacking player since Suso probably, is that people are going to say. Even then, I think he's better than him at this point, especially for the modern era. And then again, when you have that, like this is like one thing I know all three of us have said this on separate occasions because I'm always just living on Twitter or just like regular discourse, is that Rafael Leao is so much easier to defend when you don't have other threats around him. Mm-hmm. Brahim Diaz, decent player, very inconsistent at times. He's very one-dimensional as well, I would say. Easier to shut down. Olivier Giroud's 36. He went to a World Cup final in the middle of a season and was starting every single game for a team that made a Champions League semifinal. I wonder how easy that is to defend over time, right? And then the same thing with Salamakers Macias. I don't need to speak on that. I think we already know. Okay, so when you have every other position in the attack upgraded, depth-wise, starting-wise, good luck stopping number 10 now. That felt weird to say. But good luck stopping number 10 because it was hard enough to stop him in the first place. And now the fact that he's going to be able to create so much, Giroud is just going to be way healthier this season, or just a lot more fresh, I should say, because he's not going to have to play the 90 minutes. We'll see what they do with the third option if Colombo stays. But there, get your opinion on that. I think that would still be decent as a third choice option. Maybe some people want to loan him out to get more game time. He probably won't get as much. But at this point, if you add someone like Chukwueze, because I know you also watch a lot of La Liga, and we saw what he did with Villarreal in the Champions League as well. Like, I mean, it's a very dynamic attack, and I'm not sure any Serie A side wants to deal with that. Because, again, also something that we always talk about, this side, I saw it a lot this morning, is like, oh, Milan's going to be able to create some more. Bro, did you watch last season? Creating was not the problem. That was never the problem. The problem was the finishing. And now, even if they're not the greatest finishers in the world, all the players that they had, they're still a lot better than the guys prior to them. And that just means you add a goal here, there, against these other sides. And even when you have to bring someone on to break a low block, because that's the worst thing that we have to deal with this squad. But man, like adding this guy on the right on top of everyone else we have, like what is your initial reaction to also that one being basically on the finish line now?
I mean, Chukwueze was probably our best option to get for a right wing, which was one of the positions. I had it personally. I had it as a third priority, but it was also our weakest position in terms of the options we actually had. Right? I mean, Macias, God Almighty, Macias and Salamakers, man. It's especially Macias. No, but the thing I'll always think about the Champions League semifinal second leg, and it's just I remember so many tweets and my own thinking as well. It's like, man, the ball just keeps going to Macias. It's like, yeah, because that's what every other team wants. Every other team just shifted the whole field all the way to the left and be like, okay, you can go give it to that guy. Go ahead. Keep doing it. Let him keep crossing over and over and over, and nothing's going to hit targets. It's cool. We'll live with that. Now, I tweeted this earlier, but like I think the first month or so of the season, teams are still going to approach us the way they did last year, which is overload on the left and do all that. If he's on the right, he will punish them. He will punish them for that. And if he does that, which I think he will, as teams start now shifting to like respecting both sides of the field, right? Leao, they couldn't guard Leao 2-on-1, right?
Yeah.
So we damn well know he's not like. And this is the thing I've always said with Leao is like, I do feel like he's at 50% of his ability. Like he still can't really shoot. He still doesn't defend off the ball. He still doesn't like. There's still, if he wanted to apply himself, there's still a lot to grow, right? Yeah. And even at 50%, he's a 15-goal guy, right?
Yeah.
A 15-goal guy with a striker who's rooted to his spot. Like I like Giroud, right? But he's never moving anywhere.
He could have had like 15 assists, like easily. Like the amount of like, yeah.
And Giroud is always in front of you. He's never running in behind. The defense always knows where Giroud is, right? He's not interchanging. He's not going to the left. He's not going to the right. There's no switches or anything like that. Getting a guy that can actually run in behind, that can actually drop deep and allow Leao to make those cuts inside. That's that's 5 goals every season by itself. I think he's gonna become a 20-goal player, and that's without adding the Chukwueze factor, which is, again, we've talked about. The field is gonna be widened in a way it hasn't been before. I think his scoring is gonna go sky high. His chance creation, and we've always talked about. I don't think a lot of non-Milan fans realize this, but he is such a pass first player. He's such a create first player. When it scores, it almost sometimes feels like he did it by accident. You know what I'm saying?
He's done that before too in Coppa Italia against was it Lazio? He tried crossing that in.
Yeah,
Bro didn't mean to do that.
And he has goals like the famous goal against Fiorentina, where it's like it goes near post and Terracciano goes far post, because every human being would shoot at far post. And I still can't figure out. He had a few of those moments where I'm like, I don't know if he actually meant that or if he scuffed it so badly it went in the other side.
Yeah, I guess.
But like, he's such a create first player, and for so long he hasn't had guys to make runs, and he hasn't had the supporting cast. And now we're adding that, and it's gonna open up his game so much. I'm excited more for him than any of those other guys individually. Like it's gonna be fantastic to watch all that stuff to happen.
Yeah, I think what gives me some sort of refreshing feeling is the fact that, this, like Leao, make no mistake about it, we all know he's the figurehead and the face of this project, right? On the field, he's our most marketable player, he's our top player, all that stuff, right? With Tonali being gone, right? This is a big statement market that Milan have made so far. They still have a couple of other things to address, but this gives those players confidence. This gives the guys like Fikayo Tomori. This gives guys like Magnon, who is, in that conversation for a new contract. Like, do I commit? Do I go to another big club? Do I get the bag?
Yeah.
Do I go to the Premier League? This also shows some of those other players that were disgruntled at the very beginning of the market, which I know, Bdair, you had your videos on that too. And that was another question I wanted to ask you after the whole Chukwueze thing. But what this shows to a guy like Rafael Leao is saying, like, no, we're going to get you guys. We're going to get the most out of you. We're going to show you that we have faith in you as the big time player in this project. We're going to get that supporting cast that you need to take your game to the next level. And you look at Pulisic, you look at, Chukwueze, what he can do as being a direct player who could dribble. You're getting players that don't really have many limitations when it comes from a technical standpoint or from a creativity standpoint. And I think what that's going to do for Rafael Leao is going to take a little bit of that burden and that pressure off him. And I think that makes, you made a great point, how that's going to ultimately open up the field for, Leao to do even that much more and to sort of be an even better player than what he already is. So I think this is a phenomenal deal. I'm actually surprised. I don't know how you guys feel about this, that it was absolutely quiet on the front of like other teams. No, other teams coming in. Like,
oh, okay.
It's almost too good of a deal where like there's no competition from the Premier League. There's no teams that are like trying to like hijack the deal. Like he's always wanted Milan. Like that, it felt too good to be true.
I think that's part of why Villarreal kind of held the ground for a while.
Yeah.
Because I think they were waiting. They were waiting for a Premier League team to come in, an Aston Villa, Fulham, somebody like that to go all in. And I saw Karim was saying that like he thinks that the Villa deal, for example, for Moussa Diaby, kind of like a lot of those options, like Fulham got Willian, West Ham signed the Man City youngster. Like a lot of those teams that would traditionally have rivaled us for this deal got deals elsewhere. And then Villarreal had to just sit there and be like, okay, well, we're going to lose him for free next season. So we have to get something moving.
Which again, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying, so yeah, it's worked out great.
Yeah, and again, the bonus part of it isn't even that bad. And I was also telling Matt this too, like, no disrespect to Pulisic, but if he's coming in 1 year left on his deal, like 20-ish million, and the bonuses go to 25, then it's more than fair to get Chukwueze for 25 and bonuses that go up to 30 or just a little bit higher on the base for it. Like, okay. And again, the bonus thing is always funny to me because it's a good thing if bonuses hit. And they always come later on, too, in the financial period. There's so many different factors into it. It's matches played, which obviously helps with a couple of these signings because Pulisic, Loftus-Cheek, and Okafor as well have all dealt with those issues. And then you have all these other players that, hey, if Chukwueze could be performance-based, if Milan also make the Champions League again, we know how important that is. And I don't care about the technicality. We'll get on to the other stuff because there's just so much to discuss. because I'm actually excited for the first time in months. Like, bro, you have no idea. So anyways, with that, Yunus Musa is not ruled out. To me, this is a part of a larger conversation for a few reasons. One, I think it has to do with the formation side of things. We'll get into that. I also think financially it's a little bit different because the rumor was as well is that the base offer of this was 13 million with the bonuses going up to 20. That's why Peter Lim, a former, candidate to buy Milan, if anyone remembers that, like 10 years ago, whatever, basically is rejecting that deal, and I think they want a higher base for it, and that's why it's been rumored to be closer. Nicolas Guerra said this has not been ruled out after the two signings we just mentioned, so that's pretty big. We know the Musa profile, but there, you live in America, you obviously, again, La Liga stuff. He's not a traditional 6. He's not a defensive midfielder. I think this points towards a 4-3-3. We've already heard rumors of that. We kind of saw it a little bit yesterday. We saw it, I thought, last season as well, if we really want to go on the profiles that they brought on the pitch. But that's besides the point. The fact that this isn't ruled out signals to me there's more sales to come because we still haven't sold Macias. Origi and Rebic, bro, I don't know what that situation is or what's going to happen there. And then if CDK leaves, I doubt PSV is going to even come close to the offer that we want anyways. There's not a chance. So with that, are you okay with this Musa thing? Because I still think this one's a little bit more risky. I would have probably wanted a surefire defensive midfielder that has known the league, like Dominguez from Bologna is one of the names at the top of the list for a lot of people. But Musa not being ruled out, the both of you, I mean, I like him, but I think you also said this as well, Bdair, like he's not ready to contribute to Milan right now. And I think a lot of people that have seen him know that this is going to take some time for him to adjust. And because there's a lot of like yellow cards and all that stuff to worry about. But what are your initial thoughts that they're still in for him?
I don't mind that they're still in for him. I think he's maybe the most talented most gifted of the one, between him, Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Reinders. I think he's probably the most talented. He's only 20 years old, which always catches me by surprise.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen him for the U.S. men's national team. I'm not going to pretend I've watched Valencia a lot, but I have mutuals who do, and they all say like the few times he's actually been played in his best role as a box-to-box midfielder, he's excelled and he's shown that ability. And we've seen that. We saw that at the World Cup.
Yep.
We saw his ability to play in a pivot if need be. I still don't. The thing for me is, as long as we don't sign, I would like us to sign a pure defensive midfielder like Dominguez or Florentino Luis, who we were lightly linked with at the earlier in the summer. But like, if I still, in my personal opinion, as long as we don't sign one of those guys, I still think we're going 4-2-3-1. I think you can roll with. All it makes is Krunic maybe a fifth midfielder, or it gives us the flexibility to go 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1 at any given time, which is something obviously we want. But yeah, I think I would bring in Musa and look to ship out Pobega, for example, who still has value and is still a good sit-out midfielder. And I think teams last year were clamoring to get him, and he didn't have a great season, but the skill sets that make him a great mid-table midfielder still exist. So I think if you were able to like get Musa in and sell Pobega, that's a perfect swap. You get younger, you get way more talented in kind of the same role, that box-to-box midfielder role.
Yeah, I think the one thing too, because we talked about Colombo from the striker position, and then there's Gabia who looks like he's on his way out, and then they were talking about Pobega. I think one of them, like you would assume, one of them has to stay because of the homegrown aspect, right? Like I think because we're registering the squad, so it's like I think the way that Pioli, I feel like the vibe around Pobega is that he's going to stay because I don't see a Torino spending 15 to 20 million. I don't see a club
exactly, which is what Skira said, by the way, just to confirm what you're saying. He said they're only going to sell in the 15-20 range. So
I mean, it's funny because a couple of years ago, I remember Atalanta, there was reports that they were willing to offer a substantial amount. Everyone was like, no, don't give him because if Atalanta wants him, he's too good. We shouldn't give him to Atalanta.
Right, bro. Yeah, because Kessie.
I listen. We've been so devoid of like depth and quality for such a long time that I think a lot of Milan fans, they get like at the first turn of like a little bit of depth, how are we going to play all these guys? We've had the years of like, it's like Montolivo starting significant. He's starting 30 games for us. Like, don't worry, we have depth. people want to be a part of the project. We're playing Champions League. They have cup matches. They'll play. So if we're talking strictly on that, bring him in. And if we can make a swap for Pobega, that's fine. But I think if you look at up and down this midfield, when you bring Benacer back, I mean, this is the best midfield we'll probably have from a technical standpoint and overall like balance standpoint that we've had in how long? I mean, Reinders, we haven't talked about. Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Champions League experience. Krunic, who's a dependable, versatile backup midfielder.
Krunic is great as a fifth option. He was just the number 3 last year. That's the problem. You can't. The
defensive midfielder aspect is something of a concern. I suspect that that's not going to be something that should be completely ruled out. I just think that people are also, in the midst of all the additions we're making, they're still slightly losing sight of the fact that we have a lot of dead weight to offload. I mean, Adley might be gone, Gabia, the Salamakers, Macias, Origi, Rebic. Like, we have a lot of work to do on the sales side that if we're able to get something of substantial amount back, maybe there is a window of opportunity later in the market to say, Dominguez, bring him in as the player to round out our midfield and to give us that last piece of defensive support. So we'll see. But so far, so good, man. I actually, Martino, I don't know what the next plan is for the segment, but I was going to actually just go right into Bdair and say, like,
go for it.
We know we talked about Maldini. We know you had your video that absolutely erupted Tonali. And I love that one. I just love how unfiltered, honest it was. Given what we've done so far, give us your thoughts on Furlani, Moncada, and Jerry, and what's taking place so far.
So this is the thing, right?
This isn't me taking a
No, I was of course it's a valid question. I was pissed before, and I'm not as pissed. But this is the thing, right? Like all morning, all these people, these random people have been in my mentions, just being like, "Oh, first of all, acting like I'm an official spokesperson for like an organization, which is like I just have a.
You're preaching to the choir here, bro.
Yeah,
don't worry, man.
but like, okay, all right, cool. They in my opinion, all right, they made bad decisions and I criticized. And then they made good decisions and I praised.
Right.
And then at the end of the summer, I'm gonna say if it comes to the totality of it, I'll say my opinion then. But I'm sorry if these people expected me for Sandro Tonali to leave and me to just sit in front of the camera and be like, hey man, we'll see. And just do that for 6 minutes. No, I'm sorry. But like that wasn't what I felt. And I don't think that and those people applaud themselves for feeling that way. Good for you guys. You don't care about these players. They love that. They love to keep saying like we support Milan, we don't support the players. But I support the players way more than I support the ownership. The ownership never did anything for me. You know, Tonali doesn't get on the field. He doesn't score any goals for me. Tonali did. He made some tackles. He made some passes. He made me feel something. Cardinale didn't. Like that's the fact of the matter. Like. And again, I haven't criticized any deals that I actually liked. Like I praised. I said Ruben Loftus-Cheek, despite the fact that I think we overpaid for him and Pulisic. But I like those players as players. I've always and you can go to my tweets about Pulisic before we were ever linked with him. I've always rated him as a talent. His only problem has ever been he can't stay on the field. Fingers crossed, and I'm glad that with Chukwueze, for example, with Chukwueze and Leao, we're not overly reliant on him playing 30 games. You know, if he plays 30 games, God bless, excellent. But if not, we have alternatives. I was happy with the Reinders signing. Somebody I don't think any of us had ever watched, right? But when you sit down, I've sat down and I've watched his games since then. And the dude has talent. He's probably the best passer, pure passer that we've had in a few years. You know, the thing that I love about those specific 2 midfield signings is I thought, and I said this in some of my videos during the season, especially in January. I remember saying this about Tonali and Benacer, is we got so home run happy. Our midfield was just, we would get the ball and like, where can I play this 30-yard ball in behind to get like right to Giroud or to get right to Leao? It's like, wait, we're losing 2-0 to Sassuolo. Can we pass the ball? Can we keep the ball for 5 minutes? You know what I'm saying? Can we be calm? That's the main thing. That's my main, like my favorite Ruben Loftus-Cheek thing that I've seen from the games that I've watched, is that all the clips and all the hype has been about his dribbling ability, right? His ability to progress the ball off the dribble. But a lot of those clips are pre his ACL injury. So I don't see the value in watching those games. I went back and I watched this season's games at Chelsea when he played center midfield. And it's a lot more calm. It's a lot more composed, which is what Kessie used to give us, right?
Right.
Kessie had an understanding of what his limitations were, his understanding of what his skills were and what his limitations were. He was going to get the ball and he was going to get it to better players, right? And he allowed us to constantly recycle possession and constantly keep the game calm. He replaces Sheik replaces that, and he replaces Kessie's physicality. Two things that we didn't have last year, right? I don't think he replaces the defensive ability quite as much.
No,
which is why we've talked about maybe we get a defensive midfielder or something like that. But he replaces a lot of the good things that Kessie brought. Sorry, and like I said, Reinders he's talented. He's like the dude is talented. And I didn't realize this when we first got linked, but like 52 games. He played and started 52 games last year.
Yeah.
Like that's some crazy level availability. And it's huge. And he's so talented, and his passing ability is gonna open up the field a lot. So I'm happy. Again, I'm happy. I don't think we've completed everything. I don't think at the same time at the beginning of the summer, I think we all would have said striker was the main priority, right? And I am happy with Okafor, but it's not like we've nailed that. You know,
you're right.
We've done a gamble that I am, like I said, more than happy to take.
Yeah,
but is not a guaranteed guy.
Yeah.
Like I thought we should have gotten Openda earlier in the summer because I thought he was a guaranteed. He's gonna get you 20 goals right then and there, and he gave us a dimension we didn't have. But I'm more than happy. I'm more than happy with the stuff that we've done, and I like the signings we've made. At the same time, when you ask me a question of like how have my opinions changed, to me, I still think selling Tonali was a mistake, and I still wouldn't have fired Maldini, and at the same time, I think you can make mistakes like I do believe that those two decisions were, and still end up with a good outcome, right? That doesn't mean that those things weren't mistakes. I think there was an avenue where you keep Tonali and sign, for example, Chukwueze and maybe somebody like Okafor. And I think maybe those three might have given you a better team than the one we're producing with a lot more signings. I don't know if that's the case. I'll have to see at the end. But I don't think there's anything that's happened that's definitively makes my opinions before or my feelings before then wrong.
The more I thought about it too, it's like the Tonali sale like absolutely destroyed me. I was on here, like, you saw your video, me and Martino talk all the time. I see clips of him in a Newcastle shirt, and I'm like, this doesn't feel right.
It hurts.
It sucks because it's like, I agree with you. Like, I got the jerseys, man. Like, I love the player. It's
bro.
It's hard for me to just detach. Like, it's hard for me to just detach and be like, yeah, but we got like 80 million from it. It's like, I'm not seeing that money. Like, I'm not getting a lick of that.
They're not wiring it to me.
No, they're not giving
Bro,
they're not giving me
I'm so different than you guys. I'm so different than you guys, man. I was so beaten down by like all my American teams. Like, I just don't give a shit. Like, this is like, to me, like I did care. I agree with you. I wouldn't have done it. I also think the manner and the timing in which some of this stuff went out, sometimes you can't time a sale like that. If Newcastle's coming in with the offer, like, you have to accept it at that point with the way they're doing things. But like, it's just the timeline and everything that happened, and just the unknowingness of Jerry, because he's not coming around often, and the one window that they had in January, they got some Paraguayan goalkeeper just to fill up a non-EU slot that nobody ever heard of when we're conceding multiple, like, what is it, 4 more goals in consecutive Serie A matches for the first time in a 3-point era. You know how fucking insane that is? When we had shit teams for the past 10 years, none of those teams did it, but the one that just defended a title, besides the point. Anyways, I think that's the interesting thing. It is their first summer, and I did say something too after that Tonali sale. They put themselves in this position where they have to basically be perfect for the entire summer in terms of team building, in terms of bringing in the proper people, the profiles that you're making these other players happy. Right now, it's sort of turning into a distant memory for most as to what happened just a month or so ago. 2 weeks ago, our starting lineup was going to be Krunic and Loftus-Cheek in the Champions League for every single match, because Benacer is not going to be there. That's well known. He's not going to be there for the group stage. So without that, we needed to move fast, and I was starting to get irritated. They did a good job so far. And unlike past windows, guys, we're having a lot of these players in for these preseason matches because they're on their way to America right now. And that's the funniest part too with Furlani. Just want to say, but that the guy's getting on the plane and he closed a deal that nobody ever heard about. How the hell is that possible? That's how much he's moving. We'll see what happens with Musa. He's going with Valencia on their preseason tour right now. So that probably means it's not as close as we would like to think. The formation stuff we'll just touch on real quick. But I love the 4-2-3-1. Probably I'm just emotional to it because of what it brought us. And it was the first title. Like that was, we knew when that formation change happened, when Zlatan arrived, it must have been, from what I remember when things started to turn around on the pitch for me was prior to COVID in that derby when we went up 2-0 and we were playing good football against clearly the better team. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Is this like a good team we finally have? And I think that was the turning point, in my opinion. And then we saw what happened in the shutdown era. But I mean, the 4-3-3 makes a lot of sense given the profiles that we have, and especially if Chukwueze arrives. It would just be a little weird with, I know how you feel about CDK, but as of right now, he would be staying. There's Luca Romero, there's Pulisic, there's all these other players that don't necessarily fit the 4-3-3s, but we know Pulisic can slot in most spots. But are you comfortable with that 4-3-3? Like it makes a lot more sense with the midfield profiles that we have. Are you a little bit more nervous without a true defensive midfielder with that formation? Like, what are you feeling with that?
Yeah, I don't think it works without a true defensive midfielder. Unless they want to run 6 months of Krunic in that position, which might be. But to me, it'll boil down to, if they want a 4-3-3, then there needs a defensive midfielder has to come in. And if they want to run a 4-2-3-1, I think it'll depend on, like you said, how much do they want to rely on Pulisic and CDK to be starters, right? Because those are the guys who would take that attacking midfield spot. It looks like they're not all in on CDK and that he's available to be sold. And if he is sold, and Adli we know is available also to be sold, and if those guys go and it's just Pulisic, then I assume it's gonna become a 4-3-3, and they're gonna go in that direction. But I also feel like Matt said, it's gonna depend a lot on sales, because I don't see how you can sign another midfielder while CDK and Adli stay. You know what I'm saying?
And Rebic and Uri. The interesting thing on Adli too, he's on this preseason tour.
Yeah,
maybe it's a showcase, bro. I don't know the whole
a lot last time,
I know. No, trust me, I know. He looked like Zidane.
I hope. I mean, this is the thing. He is actually Adli is of all these like fringe guys. He's the most equipped to play in a 4-3-3. You know. So on paper,
blows my mind. Yeah,
I think that might be part of the reason why they brought him along, just to give him a chance in a different formation. But I don't know. I
mean, if he balled out last preseason in a different formation, then there's clearly something in the day-to-day in the training, because there's no other reason. Because in my opinion, I don't know what the both of you think, but there was not enough game time to sit there and say, yeah, this guy's. But again, like we've seen, I know Hauga is a different situation, but Hauga was literally producing in the Europa League and got us big points in Serie A, I think Sampdoria, and the goal against Napoli as well. Like the guy was even producing in big Serie A matches for Milan, and he got the boot. Like he was gone almost immediately, and he wasn't seeing time.
Bakayoko was even playing games over Adley, and everyone knew.
Yeah,
had
dude,
no chance
bro,
of staying.
yeah.
So that's.
I suppressed that.
I honestly think. I'm starting to think that the way this summer's taken place with Maldini's axe, the Tonali sale, I think it's really just the ownership and the management putting a foot down and saying anything with Maldini, Mazzara that we just don't think is good enough, we're scrapping it. Like Adley, you're gone. CDK, I think, is going to be gone. Origi, gone. I think a lot of these decisions, a lot of these players, I think there's a little bit of a cutthroat element to the way they're doing things. Because I think if you're a successful club, a successful business, sometimes you have to make the hard, perhaps questionable and difficult decisions that might bring some scrutiny. And they did. And then if they get the results on the field and the performances are there, people can forget, right? Because ultimately winning is what matters, right? So I think there's kind of that element to it. The whole mystery with Adli is a weird thing because I agree with you, but there I think like we saw enough of him last summer to think like, okay, surely this guy who we brought in a year prior to take a role for us with this then substantial amount, $8 million for us, which is substantial.
Played
for
very
Milan.
well for a terrible team.
Played well, very well for a terrible team. Had moments where like, all right, we're getting Adli, like we spent up on him, let's go. Like this is a player that has some technical quality. We saw nothing of him. So is it agenda? Who's to say? But I think it's pretty obvious that like Milan are going to be selling, very active in the seller market in the next week, 2 weeks, I want to say.
But that's the thing. You have to get somebody to want these players.
Well, when you give them bad wages and you don't come from a position of leverage, like if you're going to a team like, I don't know, in Turkey and saying, hey, we want to sell Origi, we want $8 million, they're like, you don't play him and he's sitting on $4 million.
Yeah.
$8 million ain't getting.
To me, I've seen a lot of, the reporting about Rebic and Origi has been weird because I've seen like, some reports will say there are only loan offers. Some say that we've rejected offers. I'm like, listen, man, when it gets down to it, like just get rid of them.
Yeah.
With Macias too. Like apparently 8 million, 10 million. Oh, we want 10 million. Just sell them.
Yeah, my ass.
I will celebrate the day. I'll
Just get rid of them.
I'll have a Forlani poster behind me the day we sell Macias, man.
Sell him to Torino. Ivan Juric likes him only for him to score against us.
It's like I just at the end of the day, I just don't care what we get from these players because I mean somebody outlined it. The net spend is pretty low because we've sold Tonali, right? And that's even with if we count Chukwueze and Okafor.
Yeah.
And just get the wages off the books. The wages always matter more than the transfer fee.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Origi, if you haggle for let's say $8 million for Origi, that's 2 years of his wages. He's like, you know,
him, Rebic, Serginho, though, because we even have to count Dest's wages last. He was like 3.5 net. Yeah, I know. Yeah, we won't talk about it. But just that, Zlatan was also like more than what Reinders is getting right now because I think he went all the way down to like around 2 million. That's all dead weight. These are zero players that contributed nothing. Origi got a cool goal against Monza, and that was it. The motherfucker did nothing else. The entire season. It was something. He was hurt the entire preseason. He came in late, did not produce, playing out of position. Rebic just doesn't give a shit. He's got the worst mentality on the team. I do not care what anyone tells me. There's a reason the guy was not called up to the final match. Okay? He's got a shit attitude. It's so obvious, okay? That's why he's not getting called up. So when you get rid of those guys, and it's funny too, when you hear the comments even from Pioli's press conference, I don't know if either of you read it from this morning, but he was, and Leao also confirmed this, there's so much more positivity around. And if you come in with a good attitude, things will be better. Okay? Now, deduce it with who's going to America and who the fuck isn't. Because it'll pretty much tell you who's got the good attitude and who's being willing to stay, right? So that's just from that side of things. We'll see what happens. I think more sales are coming. I really do appreciate the business of buying players first, getting them in, and then you could sell the players at another time. And speaking of selling players, looks like Balotore, dude, this guy is also aggravating because they said, oh, he's close to Fulham, and then Skirta goes, he needs 48 to 72 hours to evaluate his eye. Bro, you got like 2 options on the table. What are you reflecting? You either go there or you don't. Like, you don't need 3 days to do that. You do not. Like, I could figure that out for you in 20 seconds, but that's me. Is there anything else that you wanted to discuss, Bdair, before we let you plug everything? Is there a specific move that you want made, whether it's a sale, a purchase of a specific player, or anything else like that?
No, I think Dominguez would be the closest thing to a player I would like us to sign.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that's pretty much it on mine.
That's crazy. My man has nothing left to say. Speechless after today. Matt, anything else too before we let Ahmed?
Yeah, I'll just say, I mean, I was skeptical at the beginning of the market. I think we all were. But I think I have receipts on Twitter. I have video footage here with Martino. Hey, it's put up or shut up. Now you sell a player like Tonali, you have to have a really good market. And so far, despite Milan still needing to get someone in the right back position, single, hopefully, I would love that. And a couple other areas to address, they've done a really good job. And I have to commend, and you have to give credit, like Bdair said, when it's due. Like, you can criticize, you can do all the things that we do. We get emotional. But if they do something well and they think it's going to benefit and elevate the team, my goodness, Chukwueze, I love that deal, man. I love that deal. So you have to give the credit where it's due.
All right, Bdair, obviously you've been upping the content game. I've been helping you out with some of the clips. They've done super well for Sempre Milan. And also you just do things separately on your YouTube channel. Your Twitter has been at the ticker for the entire show, so no need to really plug that again. But your YouTube and wherever else you're putting your content, I'm pretty sure it's Bdair Ball, right?
Yeah. My YouTube channel is Bdair Ball, just with the A's and filled in on my @ And I do videos during the season for Sempre Milan as well. So if you want to go catch me over there. But yeah, other than that, that's pretty much it.
All the reaction videos and stuff. So if you've seen some of the clips that he puts out on Twitter, you get the full videos over there as well. It's the best. Every link will be in the description of this video. Please like, subscribe, comment if you have not already. We'll try and go live more often, but it's usually just me, and then I'm just like talking to 40 people who are asking if we're selling Adley, and I don't have inside information, so I can't fucking help you with that. I love you guys, but I can't help you. Santangelo, just plug your stuff, and then I'll plug mine. We could dip out of here.
Follow me on Twitter at Matt_Santangelo. It's been in the bottom the whole time. I did put out a couple articles this past week, one on Malik Chow, the impact he can make on this team, which I think is not being talked about all that much because of what's going on with the market, but I think he's got a really bright future and a really bright season ahead for us. So that article for Milan Reports is out, and I also just did something on Christian Pulisic and the impact commercially, what he can bring to Milan, and just appreciate all the support.
I had to get the jersey. I got sucked in from an advertisement. So anyway,
that one though.
Because I'm gonna be straight up with all of you. I'm getting all three. I'm probably getting the Rafa number 10 away kit, and then I don't know. Maybe Chukwueze.
Maybe Jerry on the back.
If they're coming, Jerry, bro. Everybody hits me up.
That's Twitter's favorite player, man. They love him. When somebody scores, they cheer for Cardinale, man.
But yeah, Martino Puccio everywhere. You guys know that already. But Bdair, we appreciate you so much,
Thank
bro.
you, man.
So happy to finally get you on here. Guys, go follow all of his stuff. He does great stuff everywhere. Tune in for basketball season. That's probably going to be the best. That's my favorite form of Bdair because every sport's on at once. And the way you tweet is like you could tell you're looking at 5 different monitors at the same time. And your reactions it's always the best. But we appreciate it. Take care, guys, and see you next soon.